Okay, good. Yep, no comments yet. So yeah, we just went live.
We're live. Hello, Amber, Chris. Hey, everybody. So
Hello, Freyer-Jones.
we're here a whopping minute early, which is very exciting. And I'm not eating. You're not seeing video of me eating. So I think we've scored a big win for today. I'm so excited to have you here with us, and we get to share together. And you get to share some of your own story and what it was like for you.
Yep. Yeah, I love that you created this, Carolyn. I mean, to me, it's so clear that people are getting value. The engagement has been off the charts. And one of the things that I love about you and have always loved about you is your commitment to this profession, you know, to really taking a stand for what coaching can be. And yeah, so I'm really happy to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. We have Claire Marie, who has been coming almost every week, I'm pretty sure, if not every week. And Claire Marie, we're so glad you're here. Claire Marie is on the court, sending out invitations. She is doing stuff.
Excellent.
And yeah, she came to us via Sandy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Sandy Sullivan.
Yep, very cool.
All
Hi,
right.
Claire.
It is 1:15. We are ready to go with the CFJ Coaching Success School show. And as promised, we are delivering. We are here with Amber Chris, and I am going to share a little bit about Amber, and then she's going to share a little bit. But I want to slow down on this because it's a pleasure always to get to share about Amber. Amber has been lead faculty in the CFJ Coaching Success School. We're going to be finishing our 3rd year. So she has been doing that from the beginning, and she is an extraordinary coach of coaches in her own right. So she has really helped coaches learn how to grow their business and work with all the inner stuff that shows up as we do that. Hey, Francine, I'm glad you're here. But I've known Amber a long time, because Amber is also a University of Santa Monica graduate. And gosh, I don't know, Amber, you'll have to share how many years it's been now, but when Michelle and you started talking, do you know what year that was?
2013. 2012, 2013, yeah.
Good, yeah. So hey, Mark. Amber, right. So Amber, 2013. So I saw Amber from afar. I was taking a class at the University of Santa Monica, and I remember, I don't think we texted then, but I remember saying to Michelle, oh my God, this woman, Amber Chris. And she was like, stay away from her. I've got my eyes on her. I was like, oh, okay. But she's amazing. And Michelle's like, of course, she's so amazing. And so that was my first experience of Amber, and I can share with everyone, it was very rare that I think maybe one more person, Michelle was that much like, don't go near her. Very few. That wasn't really who Michelle was. So that says a lot in and of itself. So Amber will share more about this, but Amber became Michelle's client. And Amber's whole life and work really transformed in that process. And I got to be part of that because Michelle and I were business partners. And Amber just was in a group that we ran for coaches, and she was hungry, and she practiced and got messy, and things started to happen, and it got better and better. And Amber decided that she loved this kind of work and the prosperous coach approach. And she saw that she had a natural way of being that coaches really appreciated, in addition to just regular people. And she started to serve coaches on her own, with Michelle coaching her, and then me coaching her, and then just more and more. So I really can't say enough what a remarkable person Amber is in her own life as just a general fantastic human being. But truly, like, it wasn't hard for me to be like, who's the person I want to have join me in this? Who's the person I'm thinking about? And it was a no-brainer. It was a very short list called Amber Chris. That was it. That was my whole list. I had other faculty, right? But lead faculty doing this with me, helping fill the school. I was like, well, that was easy. Let's see if she'll do it. So Amber, I would love it if you just take everybody through your own story a little bit, right? Because it's a good story and it's an important one. And yes, we see you, Eric, the coaching kung fu, right?
Coaching kung fu here is
Right.
strong. I
Right.
love it. Um, well, thank you for introducing me and sharing your experience. Obviously, Carolyn, you've been a part, like a huge part of my evolution as a coach, my success as a coach. So I wasn't one of those people that was like, I want to be a coach. I came from the world of acting and musical theater. That was where I first started. And being in that world, I had a real torturous relationship with my body. And it wasn't until I went to the University of Santa Monica that I had a new experience with my body that then what started to happen is people on the outside noticed. I physically didn't change, but how I had more confidence, how I related to the world changed. And so people, my classmates started to say, what are you doing? I want some of that. And so the first time I dipped my toes into the waters of coaching was by leading a workshop. I held a workshop in my garage for, I think it was 8 to 10 women, and the price point was $59, which felt like a big stretch. And I had no idea. And so I did the day and I loved it. And I thought, oh, like this is it. This is what I want to be doing. And I very quickly learned, I thought, well, I'll just lead this same workshop a month from now. And then I had one person sign up. Oh, that must have been a bad date, right? So I kept like blaming the date. And then I finally realized maybe I need to learn how to actually get people to attend. And so then my world opened. I thought live events. There must be something wrong with live events in me. If I open to online, other people from across the world could join. And so I went down the rabbit hole of online marketing and funnels and email lists and, membership programs and all of that. And I'm not upset about that choice. I think I really was then, but it got me to the tune in 2012 of $44,000 in credit card debt. And that was really my big wake-up call. That was sort of the moment of, oh, this way that I've been doing this is not working. Like there's real clear feedback. And I'm going to break away from this for just a second because I think it's important. I was just talking to a coach yesterday whose experience is similar, right? Like this person's gone down the rabbit hole of online marketing and has immersed herself in it for a couple of years and is not getting the financial results that she wants and was in the place of, I guess I should give up. And I think that happens a lot because people don't know that there's another way. And so I was so grateful when I found, thank God for Michelle Bauman sort of seeing me and pointing me out. And that was my entry point into the Prosperous Coach. And I remember, I think I had a conversation with her, my first ever in 2012. And I'm just like bawling my eyes out, being like, I can't pay you. I have all this debt. And she was great. She sent me a couple of books. She kept me in her sights. And, fast forward, 2013 was all about looking at my relationship with money, making different choices. And then Michelle shared with me about a group that she and Carolyn were leading, and it was a small group for coaches. The price point was $10,000, which I fell over. I was like, who could pay that?
If I recall, you were almost mad.
Oh, I was definitely mad. But see, I think this is a testament to who Michelle was to me. So Carolyn and Michelle, I had just gone to a complimentary workshop that they had led, I want to say like 3 months prior, and they were leading this group that was $2,500. And I was like, well, why is that group $2,500 and this group 10? I was so mad.
Oh, I remember. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about that because I think it's important, some context for your background. So Amber is not like, she's like, oh, I came from the world of acting and dance. Like Amber was on Broadway. Amber came from like the no joke, very intense world of rejection and being critiqued by her body and by her looks and, maybe by her talent, but sometimes maybe not, I'm guessing, right? Like even though you have enormous talent, that wasn't always what people were evaluating you on. And so I share that because it's an important piece that you have to imagine. Here's this person who already had went through a world that was, not for the faint of heart, right? That's why so many parents don't want their children to go onto, theater, because they know how hard it is. My mom, every time she thinks Lucinda's going to do that, she's like, I hope not. I hope not. And I'm like, well, Mom, it might be her heartfelt dream. I hope not. So Amber had already done all that and then got into debt. So imagine what that was like, right? Like having already gone through one profession, finding it hard, really not, it found a lot of places in her that just, she was like, wow, this is not fulfilling. She found the University of Santa Monica, starts to move in this direction. All this debt comes up. And then she's like, now what am I going to do? And here's Michelle like, come to our group for $10,000.
Exactly.
Take it away.
So I wrote, Michelle was so great because she reached out to say, I'm sure you shared about like the follow-up email, right? That innocent, did you get this email in these Facebook Lives? So she did that to me, and I wrote her back and I shared honestly my experience. And she was like, there's a profound misunderstanding. Let's talk. And so we got on the phone and she clarified some of what was going on around the group, and it's like the level of service, the length of time, the business development that would occur. And we really slowed down. And it was in that conversation that I got really clear I wanted to be a part of the group. And she said to me, and I'm always I'm afraid people will hear this as like a major promise, and it is my experience. Michelle said to me that day when I decided I wanted to do the group, she said, what you're about to learn is that you'll never have to worry about money ever again. And I mean, I had all this, like where I was coming from, that sounded like rainbows and fairy dust and right, exactly, like what are you talking about? What fantasy land are you living in? And that's the amazing thing about what I love about, I mean, there's so much I love about the Prosperous Coach now. The learning of it was not easy, or not the easiest for me. And what Michelle said in my experience is accurate. I know exactly the steps to take to make money in my work. And it's not dependent upon Facebook ads. It's not dependent upon an algorithm. It's not dependent upon an email list provider. It's not dependent upon referrals. Like I can go out and create a client anytime I want. Now, it may not be this client that I have my eye on. That person may be a no at the end of the day. And I know that as I invite people to conversations, as they sit with me, as I serve them, as seeds are planted, it's only a matter of time before they blossom. Yeah. And so to me, people who really take on this approach and do the work of mastering it, that's what's on the other side.
Yeah.
That's been, and so I did Carolyn Michelle's program in 2014, and I made my first $100,000 in my business before their program completed. And so it felt like this was sort of the missing puzzle piece that once it clicked in, then it was like, let's fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were wildly coachable in that group. You really look, that was a group of 9 coaches, I believe, 9 or 10. And, we were reading their reports every week. And not only were we reading their reports every week and they were getting coaching, they all saw each other's reports with our feedback. So they all saw what each other was billing. So, and that was intentional. That wasn't like, oh, let's just mess with them and make them see each other's billings and get really triggered. It was intentional because as coaches, we're such in a little isolated island, right? And it can be so helpful to open that up and not make billings be so like, ooh, I don't want to tell anyone. What if I had no billings this month? And ooh, I had a great month, but I don't want to tell because they'll feel bad. It opened all of that up. And we talk about that a lot in the school, right? Because we share the billings every month and there's always feelings, which is natural. I mean, when I was in my group with Steve, a similar group, there was a guy in the group who was like way ahead of Michelle and I. And we were like, how is that happening? Every week, this guy, we're like, he's already making over 200,000. We were like, we're going to chase him because he knows something we don't. And that's the way you participated. You were like, look, there was another person. You were like, there's something going on there that I'm going to get.
Yep. 100%. I'm so grateful that that person was in the group. At first I was so mad, and then I was like, I'm going to use this. Like, if they can do this, I can do this.
Yep.
And really, and you know, and I said this recently in the classroom for the school, you know, for me, I was more committed to getting out of debt. I was more committed to just like, it felt heavy to me carrying. I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of judgment. And it's almost like I was more committed to that than I was about what I looked like, what I sounded like, if I messed something up. And I think that's one of the biggest factors of success for coaches in this process. Those who are, the more willing someone is to fall down, like to scrape their knee, and then to not like lay on the ground and cry for a month, right? But to be like, wow, I scraped my knee. Let me dust back off. Let me talk to my coach. What do I do next time? And let me keep going.
Yes.
That is such an important ingredient in success.
It really is. And, you know, to me, what was so fun in that process, and then we'll open it up to questions, everybody, in just a minute or two. It was so fun, obviously, to watch you kind of have that awakening and really like go, I can do this, and I'm seeing her do this, and I want to say something about that, because to me, there's like a version of healthy competition in the profession, and there's a version of unhealthy competition called judgment, self-judgment, making others wrong. How did they do that? They're not, I'm a better coach than they are, and blah, blah, blah. And the ego that comes in, which is all natural. I'm not like, hey, it's not like I've never had those thoughts, but there's also healthy competition, which is what Amber did, right? And some of that came out of her background, right? In performance, because in a way it came with it. Like, more than one person usually goes up for a part. Yep. You got to be willing to be like, I'm showing up. I'm doing my best. I could do that part, right? So some of this is about like people increasing their ability to be in healthy competition in a fun way. Like when you were a kid at the park and you saw someone run and you're like, I could run faster than that. And there was no like, and it means something if we chase each other and I lose, right? Like we shake it off and we go, I'm going to practice. I'm going to practice and come back and beat you the next time, right? And everybody laughs and it's all good. So yep. I want to offer that. Like we talk about that in the school, right? Pick somebody to chase. Pick yep. someone who you're like, I want to be like that. They have stuff I don't. I want to learn from them. Not from like, and I'm a mess and they're good. It's not that. It's like, no, it's like, this is a valuable thing in this profession that unless you're going to be in a group with other coaches, you're not going to see. Right? That's one of the benefits, right? Having a coach is critical, but being in a group where you can start to unpack that and use it can be so helpful.
Yep.
So helpful.
Completely. When I started the group, I was like, oh, I'll make my fee be $6,000 for 6 months. That felt like, I think it was like 4,000 before that. So it felt like a really big jump. And then there was this other person that I decided to chase in the group. And they were like, my fee is if I'm paying 10,000, I'm going to charge 10,000 for 6 months. And I remember being like, who do they think they are? And again, how I would describe it is I had a glass ceiling of possibility. And by choosing, and part of the value of it was I got to see some of the inner workings of what was happening behind the scenes for this coach. And I started to see, oh, like they're no better than me. They're just more courageous in sharing a fee. And so then I played the game of like, I'm getting to 10 by the time this group completes.
Right.
Yeah. So I hear that.
It's so fabulous. And I think this is an important thing to put in context. When you're a new coach, that's a little different. Amber wasn't brand new. She'd already had some work under her belt with Michelle. She'd already done I'm not going to make my fees very high because I want to make it easy to get clients. So, you know, Amber and I would never be like, you're a new coach, charge $10,000, because that's a setup. So I want to clarify that, right? And I know coaches who never want to charge 10K. They're like, my life doesn't need that. I am happy. You know, I remember Michelle at different points would be like, oh, I loved my fee of $6,000. I loved it. And I was like, me? Not so much. Come on, let's go. But, you know, again, cost of living in Los Angeles is a different ballgame than in other parts of the country. So that's some context too. So I got a question, and Amber, I'll share it with you, and then everybody who has questions, feel free to start putting them in the chat. I got a question from someone in Australia, and this was by email, and they said to me, you know, that the show has been really helpful, and they shared about, like, in Australia at this time, it appears to them that most coaches are doing hourly versus packages. And she was like, what are your thoughts on the whole, that piece, right, versus the US, and what, you know, kind of like to me, the under question I heard was like, is it, maybe it won't work here. Like, is it possible? And I'm going to respond, and I'm going to write back to her too. She might be at the show today and she might watch it, but it's like, to me, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
See, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying fees don't matter sometimes culturally, right? You know, there's a coach that Amber and I have talked with. I think she lives, I want to say Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica is in financially a very different situation as a country. So most coaches are not, like, their fees can be really low. And she is still raising her fees for her appropriately, and like 3 months, doing 4 months. So for the Australian coaches who are either here or watching, I don't think it matters whether most coaches in Australia are doing one-off sessions, doing hourly. I actually think it might put you in an even better situation, right? Because it makes you different. It's like, no, I don't work that way. And let me share what that's about. Now, you could test it in a tiny way. Like, let me offer 2 months. You don't need to start with 6 months. You could be like 3 months, 2 months, right? But I would encourage playing with that, because that, to me, see, the hourly one-off stuff is really more from the therapeutic model. That's what that's about. That's how that got sort of put in place. That doesn't mean it's how it has to be. And it certainly doesn't mean that's what serves the client best. And that's really where the whole idea of 3 months and 6 months, it's like the client has a much deeper container where we're not always like, oh, 1 session, what can we do in 1 session? Versus like, no, real transformation on big things takes some time. Yeah. So I don't have any, if you have anything you want to add to that, Amber.
I'm just in agreement with you in that I think it's worth testing something out, because to me, in a way, there's me or the coach and then the client, but then there's a third element. Like, I think of like Sex and the City. This is super tangent, but this New York City was a character in that show. Right? And that was intentional. And in a way, when it comes to coaching, there's the coach, the client, and then the container. That is a key component of the transformation, because from the get-go, it's a set period of time where we're moving you in a direction in your life that you want to go, versus one-off sessions. It can often turn into putting out fires rather than preventing them.
That's right. That's right. And I want to say something else about that. So Brianna, I want to read what you wrote. You said, that's a setup. Thank you for saying that. I worked with a coach once who really pushed raising my fees, and it felt so misaligned. Yeah. There's no push. It's like everyone gets to be in their own process with that. I mean, occasionally if a coach who's been coaching a long time and they come to me and I'm like, and I know that they have a pretty significant professional background, I might be like, tell me why your fee is as low as it is. But that's different, right? Versus when we're new and we want, our only job is to get clients. Our only job is to get practice. Our only job is to start just practicing saying a number, right? $100 for 3 sessions. The other thing I want to say that's important about that piece of like, why 3 months? Why 6 months? Why a year? And this was big for me. Think about it this way. It's like, when we offer a piece of coaching to a client, when we offer something, what might come out of our mouth takes 15 seconds, but the impact of that could be forever. Like, that could be a turning point. So I don't want an hourly fee to be representing the value of what I do, right? Like, oh, her hourly fee is this, and that's what it's like. No, no, no. Like, I'm bringing all my life experience, all my work, everything that's occurred in my life, all my training, all the personal growth work into that relationship. And even when sessions are not going on, the coaching is happening. Mm-hmm. Right? So I have a new client. She's an executive leader in an organization. And she's emailing me in between sessions, and I have her reading things. So coaching is happening even though we're not live in a session. That's the beauty of a longer container. So, all right, we have, you want to say something, and then I'll read what Mary said.
If you're offering email support or spot calls, or if you're thinking of your clients when you're out on a walk, that time you're not being paid for if you're doing hourly.
All right, we have Mary Gallagher, who is, by the way, going to be part of our group in 2022. Yeah, so I sent out an invitation using the art of the invitation model. So Amber, Mary received the handout. That was part of when we were communicating. And anyone who wants that handout, all you need to do is email me. If you have not received the invitation handout that I developed for anybody, not just coaches in our school, but for anybody, if you email me, I will send it to you. The response was a very kind no, with the main reason being life coaching is just not a possibility for me right now. What would a professional acknowledging response sound like? Especially when the reason for the no is something like, I don't have time, I'm overwhelmed, things aren't bad enough yet. Now, Mary, I have a question, right? Because is that what you read in that sentence? Life coaching is just not a possibility for me right now. I hear affordability potentially. But was there anything else that this person shared that would indicate all the other stuff? You know, I don't have time, I'm overwhelmed, or things are not bad enough yet. And I'm certainly going to share my response. And Amber will share too. It's like my response is agreement. I'm going to agree. Wow, sounds like you're really clear. Now's not the time. All good. And then something I always like to say, this offer has no expiration date. This offer has no expiration date. If at any point you'd like to make this happen, reach out and we'll put it on the calendar. And if you never do, just know, you know, I think you're awesome, what you think of them. So it's like, we want to acknowledge, agree, and really, like, I never want to, and I used to do this, I'd like almost argue with someone in email. Well, you know, you really think now is not a good time? Like, I was terrible about that. Steve Chandler was like, Caroline, Lord, like, wow, you should have been a lawyer because you like to argue a lot. So don't do what I did, just agree. And it took me a while. Like, I'd almost have to force myself to agree because my ego was like, no, this is not a good idea of theirs. And I was like, whoa. So now I agree, like, great, totally hear you. Yep. Is there anything you want to say about that, Amber?
Yeah, well, what we have to remember is what someone is telling us is the truth. That's how they are relating to their world. And if part of coaching is about pointing out blind spots for someone, right? Someone's relationship with time and busyness could be a real blind spot, but they haven't agreed to be a client. So there is no permission yet to be able to highlight things. So we as coaches can see things from the outside in, but if we put ourselves in their shoes, if they're really living in a paradigm of, you know, my to-do list is so big and I'm just demand, and there's no time for myself and there's no way I could make room for this, it's not going to feel very good if someone writes back and says, well, actually, if you really wanted it, you could.
Right.
They're going to be like, here's my middle finger to you, bye-bye.
Right. And like, is there, you know, to give some nuance there, right? Like, that's a general, my guideline. I know it's Amber's guideline. Have I ever, you know, pushed the envelope a little bit if my intuition and I had a relationship with the person already? See, some of it's relationship based, right? If I know someone for 5 years, I was with them at the University of Santa Monica, I might be like, hey, can I say something here? And totally fine if no. Right? So again, it's always about the context of the relationship. Brianna, we're going to take your question. Miriam, you send me an email for that. So you can email me for the invite handout and request it at Carolyn Freyer-Jones, all one word, @gmail. Okay? So it's Carolyn Freyer-Jones at Gmail. And that way you ask it, I'll get it right to you. All right. So Mary, I'm glad that that was helpful. Acknowledge, agree, keep it open for the future, and you start nurturing that person, right? So I might also say, P.S., I have a book I'd like to send you. Like, if I send you something, would you read it? Right? Gentle. We want to start to become trusted sources of transformation for people. So it's like, I want to, or I might in a couple weeks be like, hey, I have this thought. Can I send you a book? I mean, again, it's a way to start nurturing. You know, Aunt Michelle nurtured Amber for what, 2 years? It's like some people are longer games.
And
Brianna, I love your.
Oh, sorry. I never read a book that she, and I said I would. And so, and also when I wanted to say, if in the beginning, when I was first learning this, financially I was strapped. And so the idea of sending everyone that I was talking to books did not feel good. So you don't have to send a book. You can recommend a book. You could send a podcast, episode. You could send an article. It doesn't have to be that you buy and send.
Right. And I think that's really important. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So Brianna, your question, what would you tell someone who's really interested in your program, but can't figure out how to make the investment? So it's a great question. And what I want to say is, I believe in you. And what I mean is, I believe in your capacity to figure out a way to make the investment, right? Because I know, without even knowing you very well, and I don't know you very well, that you have accomplished other things in your life that you did not know how to do. I'm pretty sure you're a mom, and I'm pretty sure you didn't know what the heck you were doing if you were at all like me. But somehow we figured it out. I figured it out. I'm still figuring it out. She's 13, so that changes every day. So it's like, I've had to do things even just recently. I've been in some personal situations where, with like some medical stuff for a family member, I had no idea how I was going to figure it out. I mean, really, I'm like, I've never had to do this. I don't know. I don't understand I don't even know what questions to ask. But I was like, here's what I know. I know that I don't know, and I know that I will learn. So I was just like, every person I had to get on the phone with, I've never done this before. We're new to this. Can you help slow this down and explain to me what's going to happen now? I just was like, so what I want to say to you, Brianna, and Amber might have an answer. It's like, when we really slow down and go, how can I do this? Like, without any limits on it. Like, if I really want to make this happen, how could I do this? And really allow yourself permission, if this is really important to you, to be like, there's a way. I may not see it yet, but there's a way. Because that's my experience. I mean, when people enrolled at the University of Santa Monica, when I was the director of admissions, I mean, my God, look, a woman and her dad traveled to Santa Monica from the north of Norway once a month for 2 years, north of Norway. And I used to joke with people, if you live in Orange County and you're bothered about traffic, that's not a reason not to come, right? So how did 2 people in the north of Norway figure out a way to pay to come, plus all the travel? That's like 24 hours one way, crazy time zones. And all I can say, Brianna, is something inside them said, we're doing this and we're going to find a way. And they did. And these were not wealthy people. These were not like, they lived in a tiny town with very little people. So it's like, I know you can do it, and there's no urgency from where I am. And I always say that to anyone filling a group. It's like, because people ask that question, well, I don't know, I really want to do this group with you, Amber, but how am I going to figure it out? Like, do you want to share about that?
Sure. I think Carolyn really touched on this already. So much of it to me, is really about the inner decision, right? Because if we're we're often, at least this is my experience, like, for example, when I was thinking about doing the group with Carolyn and Michelle, I first was mad, right? Then it's like, can I make this money? Is that even possible? Well, that's not really the highest level question, right? Can I? Because from where I was looking, the answer was no, absolutely not. It shifts when it's how can I? Because there is an assumption that I can that's built into that question. Yes. And then to me, the biggest piece of like there was a real clear knowing inside that this was for me. I had no idea how I was going to pay for it, but I was really clear that I was in game on. Where were the untapped people that I had in my world? What crazy ideas did I have in my mind that I was too afraid to sort of put out there? And I actually said to them, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do the payment plan or pay in full, because I think that it was like $9,000 pay in full, $10,000 payment plan. And I was like, to write you a check for $9,000? Like, who am I? Like, who is that person that can do that? And I was so excited by that possibility that I was like, that's the game I'm playing. Now, I ended up doing the payment plan, fine. Right. But the game, it really, because October is when I decided, and the program started in January. And those 3 months, like who I became in those 3 months, really set the foundation for what occurred in the next 6 months. That's right. Because my glass ceiling raised, my courage to be in action raised, my willingness to fall on my face raised. And so that's because commitment to me is a key piece. Like when we get really clear and committed, our energy aligns. I also think that's when the universe, there's a force that can come along with us to be like, oh, here you go.
Right.
That's what
I love that you said that. And the universe rewards action, not thought. Right. So it's one thing to think about it. It's another thing to start to take action on it. I was thinking about Steve Chandler taught at the school just this past weekend. Right. So Steve Chandler's on the faculty at the CFJ school, and he came and taught for a day, and he did a whole piece on the difference between commitment and intention. Mm-hmm. Commitment and intention. So it's like, I might have an intention to work out 4 times a week, and that can be really different than having a commitment to work out 4 times a week. They're very different. And believe me, I'm my own training as a USM student. Intentions are directional, and they are valuable, and they are important. And there's still a difference between commitment. And so one thing for you to play with, Brianna, is like, you're like, well, I have an intention and I'm just not committed yet. And that's fine. See, it's not like, oh, I'm not committed is bad. It's like, it's great to know where you're at. And there's nothing wrong with that. See, that's what's really important too. See, I think as coaches, when we want a client, right? And, it's easy to kind of get all like caught up in, well, they're not committed and they're not. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, that's part of what a lot of humans are working with, right? Mm-hmm. Like, not many people are well versed in the land of commitment and keeping their word and making things happen. So I want to have a light touch with people, right? It's like some people are going to come towards me and they're going to be like Amber, and they're going to be like, I'm getting on the court and I'm going to, wow, this is really important to me. I will figure this out. And some people it's going to take longer. And that's part of it. That's part of the process. All right. I see another Mary. Lately, I've been receiving some advice from people telling me things like, you need a marketing tagline. I'm sorry. You need a clear message for who you help and what exactly you did. The customer avatar. Oh man, I could stay on here till 4 o'clock talking about customer avatars, Mary. And know what keeps them up at night. Inside, I am resisting this. What can I expect to hear at the school? What can I start? Okay, you will never hear those words, customer and avatar, not on their own and not combined. We will never discuss customer avatars, and we will never discuss a marketing tagline. Because, look, Amber has her own website, right? And would you say your tagline is fierce loving? Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, Amber does a lot. In addition to the kind of work we're talking about here, Amber works with many people about self-loving and about their body in the past. And Fierce Loving came out of her work with Michelle. Now, but Amber wasn't like, I need a tagline. That is going to be critical in my work as a coach. It emerged. It evolved. I don't have a tagline. I've never had a tagline. I mean, I'm sure many people would be like, oh, you have a lot of taglines, Carolyn. You just don't use them on your website. But I don't like, it's not a thing. I really want to say this to everyone. A marketing tagline is not a thing. It's not a requirement. If one evolves as you start to grow yourself as a coach, that's beautiful. But that, no one ever hired a coach. No one's going to be like, Amber's tagline is Fierce Loving. Here, let me write you a check for $10,000.
Yeah, no. And if you decide that the online space is where you want to go, in a way, that's a very crowded land, and that's why there's so much emphasis on what's your niche and who are you. People need to, in 5 seconds, come to your website and be like, this is who I serve, and this is how I can help them. And what I would say about that, and look, that's where I started. So I had a tagline, I had an ideal customer avatar, I had all of that stuff, and I got $44,000 in debt through that process.
How's that for an avatar?
Exactly. I'm not saying that's everyone's experience, but that was my experience. And where I sit today, that approach, it like takes the humanity out of it. Now suddenly I'm boiling down my customer. My customer is no longer Jeff or my, it's not someone with a name. It's like this demographic, early 30s, mom, overwhelmed. Right now, it's now suddenly the individual relationship is lost. And so to me, if having a niche, and if you're implementing this kind of a model, is a disservice, because you're going to limit the people that you can serve.
Well said.
That's what
And what I want to add to that, Mary, and I love this question because I think this is not uncommon, right? Especially coming out of coaching programs where everybody's trying to be like, okay, how do I do this? It's like, niches emerge, right? Like I didn't coach coaches from the moment I became a coach, right? I had a lot of background in enrollment and sales, which naturally lends itself to coaching small business owners and coaching coaches, but that emerged. It's like, I love Steve Chandler's line when people are like, do you have a niche? And he's like, do you have a life? Lives are my niche, just lives. Because there's so much value in learning and connecting and practicing coaching all sorts of people. Now, a niche may emerge. Michelle and I ended up doing coaching groups for women because Michelle adored women. I do as well. But she was like, and then we were like, we want to serve professional women because we were. But that evolved. It wasn't like we needed it and I needed to have this tiny box that I put myself in. And all I can think of with customer avatar is like, I imagine, like on your phone when you can make up that little emoji that looks like you, that you can make it look like you, and people do that. That's what I think. Like, I'm like, does that mean like that's what my client would look like, and they have this and that. It's like, you can relax. And this is for everybody. It's like every coaching relationship is built one at a time. Michelle built her relationship with Amber. She wasn't looking for 20 Ambers, one, and it was Amber she noticed, just Amber. Just like I've noticed Mary or Eric or, other people, right? It's like, that's all it's about. It's about an individual human relationship, and none of the rest really matters. And that's what you will hear in the school. Like when coaches raise their hand, we start to talk about that one person that they are connecting with and who they are. We don't really go, now let's talk about 20 more people like that. And, every coach gets to decide for themselves. I like variety. I coach corporate people. I coach coaches. I love it. I like mixing it up. Someone else may be like, I only want to coach people who are in a big life transition. Great. That works. Isabel, being presented with the approach of who are you serving, and be clear on what you're offering. I often find myself still grappling with validating the value of what I offer, feeling a tangible conviction in it. There gets to be a lot of pressure on being perfect. I have to affirm the massive transformations I've had and how much I walk the talk instead of overlooking and diminishing myself. So that seems like a good one to just talk about as we complete. Do you want to say anything to that, Amber?
Yeah, I mean, I think becoming a coach, I say this a lot, is the biggest course of personal development on the planet. You know, I feel like as soon as someone says, this is the direction that I want to go, it automatically means you're in a growth, inner and outer growth game. And Isabel, what I appreciate in your sharing is, you know, part of the evolution of coaching, our profession, our practice will be a reflection of an evolution of our journey, right? Like I started working with women in their relationships with their bodies because I had an experience there. I had a transformation that was like, wow, more women need to know this. And then on my journey, the next phase was like learning about money. And then I started supporting people around money. And then I started supporting coaches and growing their practice. So it evolved as I went. And so finding your way is, it's not like, a lot of times we think we should be able to predetermine it, right? I think that's what niches are. It's like, I'm predetermining where I fit in. And then you get into the game of it and it's like, do I even like this? Is this for me? And so that's why I'm always, before someone invests in a website and branding and all that stuff, I'm like, just go work with people and find out if it's your jam. Because if it's not, you'll have more room to adjust and move. And I love, Isabel, that you're seeing there's room for you to really, to look for, instead of looking for what's wrong or not working, or looking for ways that you could improve, which I can appreciate, that I have had my own experience working with that in myself, really actively choosing, no, before I let this part of my brain come in and take over, I'm going to say, wait, what happened for this person? What is one win that this client had? And can I see my part in that? Because you're accurate. Our willingness to do that will help us stand on the foundation of our value that we're providing, not our value as a human, the value of the services that we're providing. And so building that muscle of looking for that is important.
It really is. And I want to say one thing. Our only job is to help someone. So it's not like that's what we're here for. We're here to help. It doesn't have to be like, it's like our job is to give people good coaching sessions, right? And especially at the beginning, Isabel, like it's like that's good enough, right? And to practice. This is a practice. This is a profession we evolve in. And Amber, you are such a great example of that. Like really, I so thank you for coming on today. Like it's such a joy to have you. Amber plays a very significant role in the school and it's just a joy. And I really want to thank everyone. This is the last episode in the series and it's a great way to complete to have Amber Chris on. So like really, I acknowledge all of you who've come every week, who've watched, who've emailed me, who've shown up. It's been so fun to get to do this with you. And more to come. And thank you again, Amber. And everybody have a beautiful day. And if you want that handout, email me, Freyer-Jones@gmail.com. Francine, so glad you're here. Take care, everybody.
Bye.